Hello there and welcome into another edition of the JMac Podcast, where today I want to answer a very important question, and that is, has Utah lost all of its progress when it comes to COVID-19? We are heading backwards in more ways than one. And the unfortunate thing to me is that this was entirely predictable. We knew that this was going to happen. I told you that this was going to happen. And the reason it's going to happen is because the science is pretty sound with how COVID-19 spreads. And so as we made all of this progress in the state, when it comes to shutting down businesses, shutting down restaurants, shutting down schools, and what happened? We watched the numbers go down and down and down. And then we decided, okay, let's open up, but let's open up in a smart way. So Salt Lake County wanted masks. They mandated masks for everybody. Utah County did not. And then Utah County opened its schools. And then Salt Lake County started to open up some of their schools. And what did we see happen? We saw the cases start to spike. In fact, we saw more cases than we had seen before. It's pretty simple math, the way that this virus works. And there's really, as far as I can tell, there's only two ways to get it out of our society. The first ideal would be a vaccine. That way we can all go about our business, get the vaccine, and then we build up herd immunity, and the thing goes away. The other is to be diligent, to wear a mask, to social distance, to care about those around you, to not create super spreader situations. And I've told you, I believe schools are super spreader situations. So what I want to do is I want to give you some information that you may or may not have had already. You may or may not have seen this about where we're at with COVID-19. What is the governor saying? What are different counties doing? What are high schools doing? And I want to hear from you. Have we lost all of our progress? We are absolutely taking steps backwards now. We're not moving forward any longer. And are you willing to do what it takes? Are the people of Utah County willing to do what it takes? Here is a press briefing that happened at the end of last week talking about how Utah County, my home county, I live in Lehigh, that's where most of these spikes are happening.
I'm especially concerned with what we are seeing in Utah County. They have been experiencing a surge for the past 3 weeks, with the greatest increase in the past week. 40% of our new cases in this past week are from Utah County, but they only account for about 20% of our state's population. And there's parts of Utah County that have infection rates of 1,400 cases per 100,000 people. This is approximately 6 times greater than the state's infection rate. And we are on pace to match or exceed infection rates that we have seen in the Navajo Nation and in New York City.
Utah County, what's going on? Why do you have 6 times the infection rate? Well, I think the answer is obvious. There's no mask mandate in Utah County like there has been in Salt Lake County. And we opened up our schools and we opened up our businesses. I'm out every day delivering for DoorDash, trying to make ends meet. And I can tell you, people are not wearing their mask. It's been going down consistently, anecdotally, obviously, from my own perspective. But everybody should have seen this coming. I did, and the experts saw it coming. So here's our governor talking about some of these numbers and what we're seeing.
We've had some good news days. Today is not one of those good news days, though. Today we have a significant and troubling concern with this tremendous spike we've had this past week with our case numbers, culminating with 911 today. And it should cause all of us concern, the highest single count we've had since the beginning of the pandemic. But we're finding that, in fact, the age group that's spiking the fastest right now is the 15 to 24-year-olds. That really means our high school students and our college and university students are at the center of this spike that's taking place, which I think this younger population really is acting as kind of the canary in the coal mine. It is a red flag warning for all of us that, hey, things are happening out there. This is a dynamic situation.
Now, who is surprised by this? None of us should be surprised by this. The science doesn't lie. We should have all seen this coming. Now, there is some good news there. If a lot of the infections are happening with young people, then that means there's going to be fewer deaths, at least up front. But Governor Herbert explains that this is a lagging indicator, that when you have cases spiking, that eventually you're going to end up with more deaths, because these young people are not living in a bubble. These young people are around other adults. They are around at-risk individuals, and they may not even know that they're carrying it. So this is a real concern. Now, Governor Herbert went on to express his specific concerns about the recent spike in cases.
I'm alarmed that our case counts are growing when they should be stabilizing and dropping. I'm alarmed by what that means to us. Why is it happening? And the higher case counts will lead to more hospitalizations and deaths. This is a lagging indicator. Our hospitalization rates have stayed pretty constant, but the worry now is what's going to happen the next 2 or 3 weeks as this lag time is in place, and we may have, and we hope we don't, but we may have increasing hospitalization rates and death. That causes me some alarm. I'm alarmed by people who ignore health guidelines and those who are out there promoting social gatherings almost in defiant of the recommendations by our best minds in science and medicine that say, social distancing is an important aspect of how we slow the spread and how we maintain, our economy to stay open. Our medical advice and the direction we get from science and data would indicate to us there are certain protocols we should follow. We all know them. We can probably all recite, wear a mask, social distancing, good hygiene, wash your hands, don't go to work when you're sick. Mostly all common sense things, but we have people who are just ignoring them almost defiantly. I'm alarmed because people seem to indicate they don't believe in the science. And I know that there's things you can find, and probably everything we have is not perfect, and we're learning as we go. That shouldn't alarm us at all. In fact, we should welcome that as we learn more things. But just because you find it on YouTube or the internet doesn't mean it's correct. I trust the local medical advice that we get here from really smart people. I appreciate the BYU and their science research on 120 different studies on the benefit of wearing masks and face coverings. And as we've said, this is really about how can we, in fact, protect others besides yourself. And so I'm alarmed about what I consider a lack of concern some Utahns have for the welfare and the well-being of others. It's not just about me. It's about all of us together. I wear the mask to protect you. You wear the mask to protect me. That's how this virus works, and that's how we ought to practice our association one with another and show the concern we have for our neighbors.
Alarmed by a lack of concern for the health, and well-being of those around us. Those are the things that has him very concerned. Honestly, the truth of the matter is we could weed this out of our society if we decided as a collective to do so. And then we can get back and we can fully open. But what we did is we took a lot of steps initially to weed it out. And then cases dropped, but it wasn't all the way gone. And there was this clamor to rush kids back to school and to rush restaurants and bars back open. And this is what happens. And again, we all knew it was going to happen. Didn't you know deep down? Maybe you don't care. Maybe you think that these deaths are okay, that 200,000 deaths across the country, that's okay. That's odd to me. I happen to believe that we should do everything in our power to protect life. And if you're in a situation where you're saying, oh, it's just the old people that are dying. What? That's okay? Oh, it's just the people with other conditions that are dying. That's okay? I thought that on the right, that conservatism was about pro-life. I thought life was of value, of importance. I thought Christianity was the call, our principles rooted in Christianity. Love your neighbor. I don't recall any teaching that says love your neighbors should take a back seat to civil liberties. This shouldn't be about civil liberties. I've said this over and over and over again. This should be about caring that those around you could die because you won't inconvenience yourself enough to wear a mask. It's striking to me that this has become so political. It's scary to me how willing people are to just, I don't know, is it because you, like the governor said, you don't believe the science? You look at how this has played out from beginning to end. Everything that the epidemiologists have told us has played out. And it's accurate. I think that's enough reason to follow it. But again, that's just me. Now, again, because this is younger people who are getting it right now, that's a good thing. You're seeing fewer hospitalizations. There's a question about hospital beds. I've said to you the whole time that if our hospitals get overwhelmed, that the death rate goes up because we won't have enough space for people who are infected. Right now, according to several reports, it looks like we're okay in that regard.
What it would take to max out the healthcare system in our hospitals. Jim, are we even close yet?
Well, we're doing okay for now. We're at 131 people currently in the hospital right now with COVID-19, which is 10 more people than what we saw and where we were at 2 Fridays ago, but it's still well off the peak we saw earlier this summer.
At 12.5%, Utah's infection rate is the highest it's been during the pandemic.
It's scary. It's scary.
Hospitalizations lag cases by about 2 weeks. Greg Bell, the president and CEO of the Utah Hospital Association, says hospitals have planned for high capacity since early on, but
if we have similar hospitalization rates as we had in June, July, it's going to really present some challenges.
COVID hospitalizations peaked at about 21% of all ICU beds over the summer. Bell says it's about 10% today, and overall hospital space is about 60% full right now. 80% is when the warning bells go off.
But if we get to 12, 13, 1,400 cases a day, that is probably going to really test the limit.
Unlike over the summer, more younger people are getting sick, which do not require as many trips to the hospital.
Even if they're younger and healthier, these kids go home. They hug grandma. They go see someone. They're out and about. They're in stores.
Bell also told me tonight that fewer people are actually having to stay in an ICU bed or in the hospital because of advancement in drugs and better treatment just since the beginning of this pandemic. And he also said that we are seeing fewer patients having to use a ventilator. Reporting in Salt Lake tonight, Jim Spiewak, 2 News.
So that's the good news. I don't want you to think that this is all doom and gloom scenario. But it is important to note that if we stayed above that 1,000 or more mark, that could really have a negative impact on our system and deaths could skyrocket. All right, let's take a minute and look at the high schools around the country. And you will see, not around the country, actually around the state, that since we've opened up, that high school football is being affected and high schools in general are taking a hit here. What a surprise.
The Canyon School Board spent more than 2 hours tonight in an emergency meeting to come up with a plan to respond to the rising number of COVID-19 cases. This comes after Corner Canyon High School reported 40 positive cases with 500 students quarantined.
Emily, this number is the highest count of positive COVID-19 cases we've seen of any Utah school so far. District officials note this will likely be an uphill battle as cases continue to climb. What the board is trying to do is find a balance between all sides of concerned teachers, students, and parents. After a COVID-19 outbreak forced Corner Canyon High School to move to online-only learning for the next 2 weeks. Board members say navigating the COVID-19 pandemic is extremely difficult, but they are doing their best to find the balance between all sides.
And so you can see that they are having a big-time problem there. Let's go through some of the other high schools. Timpanogos High School announced they'll be transitioning to a hybrid of online and in-person classes. So they're backing up. Viewmont versus Farmington football game has been canceled because of COVID-19. Copper Hills High School classes close for cleaning after COVID-19 cases. BYU and UVU are warning that in-person classes may end if COVID-19 cases continue to climb. So we are seeing this spread throughout our high schools, as was predicted. And then also, speaking of going backwards, Provo and Orem are now taking steps backwards, with 650 new coronavirus cases reported statewide on Tuesday. Provo and Orem will go back to an orange or moderate restriction level at 11:59 p.m. on Wednesday. So again, as you can see, we are now officially going backwards. And I don't know why we expected any different. Maybe this time we can listen and we can watch and we can know that this is how this works, and we can make better decisions. My encouragement to each one of you is to be a part of the solution instead of being a part of the problem. I hope that we can all do that. Hey, please take a minute and make a donation to this podcast. You can be a one-time patron or donate once a month, $1 a month, $5 a month, whatever you can. If you're watching this video, you see I have a really cool QR code there. You can just scan that with your phone. If you're listening via podcast or some other social media, you can simply click on the link in the description and help me out. Thank you so much. And again, please, everybody, do your part. We can get rid of this. We really can if we are smart as a community.